I think it came as something of a shock to Southerners to realize that their institution had not only been abolished but discredited in the eyes of the world. And if that institution was discredited in the eyes of the world, then the Confederacy itself would be discredited in the eyes of history. So it became a psychological necessity, I think, for them to deny that the war was about slavery, that they were fighting for the preservation, defense, perpetuation of that institution. And so they developed a series of alternative explanations for their raison d'etre, for their reason for existence. And states' rights became one of those. A kind of cultural nationalism became an explanation for the South was different. It ought to have the right to govern itself, and that they had fought for this right of self-government. And the desire to create a new kind of nationalism in the 20th century, which was furthered by the Spanish-American War in 1898, when actually two former Confederate generals, one of them the nephew of Robert E. Lee, became generals in the United States Army. It was furthered by World War I. It was furthered by such movies as Birth of a Nation in 1915, where a Southern director presenting a Southern point of view in this film nevertheless portrayed Lincoln as a hero and as the Civil War as the real birth of this new united Northern and Southern nation. So I think that was the principal reason why through the last decade or so of the 19th century and probably much of the first half of the 20th century, you get this kind of consensus among Northern and Southern historians that this was a noble moment in American history, and let's just forget about these issues that might continue to divide us today and look at the positive parts of that history.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.